There is a huge misconception regarding e-commerce PPC campaigns. Since most or almost all purchases happen online, people usually take it for granted that they don't need to care about tracking, because everything is tracked online. Almost every other e-commerce account we audited had some kind of issues with the tracking. However, the worst thing you can do with a PPC campaign is bad tracking. Google took away a bunch of levers. Nowadays, you can't even see half of the search terms people typed in before they clicked on your ad. Google's, Microsoft's, or Facebook's AI are there to help you, but only if they have accurate data. Accurate data means you need to implement server-side tracking or server-side tagging, as some people call it. It has layers, so not all server-side tagging implementation are the same. So let's start with the basic client-side versus server-side tracking and why it matters in 2025 and beyond. Client-side tracking runs in the visitor's browser. Tracking scripts, for example, Google Analytics tags, metapixels, collects the data and send it directly to analytics or advertising platforms, for example GA4. Server-side tracking routes the data through your own or rented server before they send it to the destination platform. This could be as simple as parsing server logs or as advanced as a server-side Google Tag Manager SGTM setup. Okay, so when you need server-side tracking, lower advertising costs, browsers are restricting cookies, third-party cookies are already blocked in Safari and Firefox, and even first-party cookies have shorter lifespan. Server-side setups don't rely on browser cookies, enabling more complete and reliable data transfer to ad platforms. More complete data helps ad algorithms to find higher value audiences, which can increase conversions and reduce cost per acquisition. Meta reports a global average of 13% lower cost per result and 90% more measured conversions with server-side tracking. Improved data accuracy. Cookie lifespans limit the distort analytics. For example, Safari may reclassify returning visitors as new after just 7 days. This affects attribution, so if a visitor is returned after 8 days, they appear as a new user. If they convert without coming from a campaign, the conversion appears as direct, regardless of data retention settings. A well-built server-side setup can align analytics transaction counts and revenue figures exactly with your backend. A well-built server-side setup can reach nearly 100% accuracy. It improves site performance as well. Server-side setup reduces the number of third-party scripts loaded in the browser, improving load speed and potentially boosting SEO. You also gain more control over data. A server can act as a proxy to filter sensitive data before it sends to analytics tools, for example, removing personal details from forms fields. Also, IP masking is possible for legal compliance without sacrificing tracking functionality. So you just pass 0.0.0.0 instead of the real IP address. And here comes another crucial part. You send profit values instead of just revenue to advertising platforms for more accuracy, while keeping profit margin confidential. For example, with the client-side tracking, users could see your profit margins. Tracking off-site events, subscription renewals, refund, offline deals, and CRM milestones can all be sent server-side, ensuring they are attributed to the right campaigns, even when the customer isn't on your site. This is especially helpful for B2B e-commerce sites. So you might ask, okay, but is this legal? Yes. Server-side tracking doesn't measure anything without user consent. With consent, the same data is measured, just differently. It's not a black hat tool, it simply maximizes the accuracy. Although technically, it can be implemented in a way that breaks the law because no one sees what data you actually send. We don't implement server-side tracking that way, and you shouldn't either. Let's see the options for setting up server-side tracking. If you decide to implement server-side tracking, you can use several solutions, as GTM, the most widespread solution in the implementation of server-side tag manager. Advantage is similar to the client-side tag manager, From one data source, you can send data to multiple target systems. What you need for implementing SGTM: you need a rented or own server, a GTM, and modification of your domain records. Own or rented server. Your SGTM can run on a dedicated server that you own or rent. We wouldn't recommend the own server option. The own server solution tends to be much more expensive than a rented one. We would recommend going with Google Cloud or Stape.io for the rented server option. On a low traffic website, the cost of SGTM hosting can even be free, and even with medium traffic, the monthly cost doesn't exceed around $100. So before implementing SGTM, GTM must also be implemented if measurements were made with native code. This is necessary because the client-side GTM sends the data to the server-side GTM, and from there the data flows to the target systems. The domain record modification: to make your SGTM more resistant to the actions of ad blockers, it is important that the SGTM container is placed under your own domain. For example, if your website URL is mydomain.com, then the SGTM container can run under data.mydomain.com. So the requests sent there arrive at your hostname. Such a subdomain can be created by modifying DNS records. An even better solution is to set up a page path for the SGTM under your existing hostname. For example, mydomain.com/data would be the URL. In this case, the /data page would forward the request to your data.mydomain.com domain. Finding the right subdomain is also an important task. It's worth not giving the names such as gtm.mydomain.com or tracking.mydomain.com to avoid the name itself triggering blocking the ads by the ad blocker, because then all your efforts will be wasted. So implementing SGTM can be done with minimal developer resources, but you can gain a significant advantage in the eyes of advertising system. With it, we can set up server-side measurements toward many target systems. Meta TikTok, for example, can be implemented, and the data can be sent server-side to Google Ads, Google Analytics, and many other systems. The disadvantage of this setup is that the data transfer is initiated by the client-side code, so it cannot be guaranteed 100% that the data transfer will not be blocked for some reason. Backend server-side tracking or server-to-server tracking is also possible to send events directly from your backend to the server of the target system. In this case, you don't need to use the server-side GTM. The advantage is that the visitor's browser doesn't take part in this data transfer. So the 100% data accuracy can be achieved with this solution. Disadvantage is that it is very inflexible. Since you are not using GTM here, every modification will require a developer again. In addition, measurements must be created separately for each target system. If, for example, you want to use Meta and TikTok CAPI in addition to analytics, that means there are 3 different data transfers with 3 different developments. Since the data is sent by your backend to your data server, the location data of your own server will appear in the system at the transmitted event. For those who need precise geo-targeting data, we do not recommend this solution. In addition, back-end side tracking also requires codes that are running on the client side. If these client-side codes are blocked, the back-end events will still get into the target system, but they will not be usable for campaign attribution. In practice, this means that in analytics, the conversion will appear as coming from not set source. In the case of Meta ads, for example, it will not be attributed to the campaign. But there is a hybrid solution. It is possible to implement server-side GTM but send the main conversions from the backend. This combines the advantages of the 2 above solutions. We improve the accuracy of client-side tracking with SGTM, but the events treated as the key KPIs arrive from the backend, and this achieves the 100% accuracy. Another advantage is that only one data transfer needs to be created on the backend, which can supply our target system with data. The hybrid solution is the best, and if possible, we would recommend this to implement. There is also one more solution which a lot of people forget about: gateways. This is the simplest and cheapest solution for creating server-side tracking. Each gateway forwards data to one target system, so the number of gateways needed equals to the number of systems you have. The advantages is that it's very cheap, about $10 per month per gateway. For this money, you get a relatively high event volume limit, even enough to cover medium to large traffic website. Its accuracy matches that of SGTM, so in theory the data transfer can be blocked since it doesn't implement backend server-side tracking, but the setup of gateways is very simple. With the right permission, it's a matter of a few minutes. If you need more than one or two target systems, it's maybe worth considering SGTM instead, since depending on the traffic, its setup may even turn out cheaper, and it's a much more flexible ecosystem. The disadvantage of gateway is that, unfortunately, you have to give up the precise geographical data as well. So here's my conclusion. We've seen that the introduction of server-side tracking is a very broad concept that can mean many things. It can mean using gateway, costing a few dollars, but it also can be a large development worth several thousands of dollars. It is important to see that with a proper implemented but inexpensive solution, you can make a huge improvement in data accuracy and attribution. Of course, everything can be done better. So if accuracy is important, a perfect setup can also be created. In 2025, server-side tracking is practically unavoidable, even in segments that previously managed with client-side tracking. However, proper implementation is very important too. We must consider the existing features of the website, the goal to be achieved, budget and resources. Server-side tagging is a must-have to achieve better results with PPC in 2025 and beyond. If you like this video, please subscribe to the channel so you won't miss our next one. Also, don't forget to like this video, it helps and encourages us to create more videos like this one.